Hey guys, Skellington 80 here. So we are back for day... Hang on. I'm so sorry. This is very unprofessional, but I've lost count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Day 8 of 25 Days of Monsters. And today we bring you the story of Frankenstein's monster. I mentioned on day 6 that we would be getting to this soon, and hey, I came through in my promise since, well, this is the 8th story in the book. He is, well, obviously from Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, written in 1818, and hang on, my dogs are going nuts again. I am very sorry, but you'll just have to accept that this is going to be a constant issue. Guys, please, calm down! Guys! Fergus! Maggie! Please! Thank you! Alright. Oh, for the love of God. Guys, please! Alright. The category is organic construct / science experiment. Base of operations is all over Europe. When is the 18th century? Powers, resistance to cold, killing, and most dastardly deed is killing everything his father loved. And the fear factor is 4, although that's kind of relative from person to person. Alright, and now we begin. Hang on. Just got a little something in my throat. Hang on, I'm gonna take a drink quick. I should have done this beforehand. I'm so sorry, this is very unprofessional. But then again, I'm kind of an unprofessional YouTuber. I don't even know how to edit my videos. Alright. You know what, I'm just gonna move my water glass closer. Hopefully this doesn't spill on anything, because the TV tray my iPad is on is kind of at a weird angle. Screw it, that's the angle we're just gonna have for the rest of the video. Alright, without further delay, let's get started. I am very sorry I made you wait so long. As the rain pelted down in his attic laboratory, a young scientist toiled late into the night, meticulously stitching together a man out of the corpses he stole from graveyards, slaughterhouses, and dissecting rooms. Human corpses, but perhaps some animal corpses too, for what else can be found in a slaughterhouse? I don't know, maybe it's a slaughterhouse where a murder spree took place. Yeah, that was a weird joke. I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that. This was Victor Frankenstein, a chemistry student in 18th century Germany and the world's first mad scientist. Turns out that building a human from jumbled parts is difficult, and knitting together veins and nerves requires a delicate touch. To make his work easier, Victor constructed everything on a larger-than-life scale, and the body he ended up building was a full 8 feet tall. In order to prevent anyone else from attempting to replicate his experiment, Victor refused to disclose on how he managed to imbue dead flesh with the spark of existence, but somehow he did it. His creation lived. Victor thought that he would make a beautiful giant man, but the creature turned out as hideous as any jigsaw puzzle of dead flesh would be. The end result was not a man, but a monster, with watery yellow eyes and sallow skin that scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. Horrified by what he made, Victor fled from the monster, and by the time he worked up the nerve to return back to his lab, the creature was gone. But what do you do if you're an 8-foot-tall freak of nature with no sense of the world? The monster started to wander around Europe, but everywhere he went, people either ran away screaming or threw rocks at him until he left. He was alone in the world and experienced nothing but hatred and pain. Finally, the poor wretch found shelter in a little abandoned hovel attached to a peasant cottage. Holing up there unseen, where he spent the winter spying on people, and by eavesdropping he learned how to speak French. By swiping books he learned to read, and reading taught him all about the world. Unfortunately, he was still really ugly. People assumed that ugly on the outside equaled ugly on the inside, and that the monster's soul was as hellish as his form, full of treachery and fiend-like malice. However, the monster behaved kindly for a while. He saved a little girl from drowning and befriended an old blind man. But that's when he ran into Victor Frankenstein's younger brother, and because 1, the little boy was repulsed by the monster's hideousness, and 2, he was related to Victor Frankenstein, the monster wrung his neck. He framed the maid, who was sentenced to death and hanged for the crime. Perhaps it was the cruelty of society, but Victor Frankenstein's creation ended up as twisted in his morality as he was in his anatomy. Lonely, depressed, shunned and hated by all mankind, the monster came up with a plan. He tracked down Victor Frankenstein and demanded that his creator fashion another 8-foot-tall freak to be his bride. The monster promised that he and his wife would flee to the wilds of South America and live gentle, vegetarian lives. Alright, and there's a paragraph here. We're just going to pause for a bit. What's his name? If you ever refer to the monster as Frankenstein, some know-it-all will pop it up and say, "Excuse me, but Frankenstein is the name of the scientist. You're talking about Frankenstein's monster." But is the know-it-all right? The book never calls the monster by a name, but Victor Frankenstein compares himself to the monster's father, and if the monster is Frankenstein's son, what name would he have but Frankenstein? At the very least, almost all media released since the book's publication have called the monster Frankenstein. Alright, let's get back to the story. It's almost over. This sounded like a good deal, so Victor agreed to clutch together a female monster. Eventually he chickened out, fearing that the two creatures might reproduce and spawn a race of devils. And this proves that The Bride of Frankenstein is not canon, even though I'm pretty sure the movies and the book take place in a separate universe. And to think the story could have had a pleasant ending if Victor hadn't gotten cold feet. I swear the people in these stories are so dumb sometimes. Alright. Although he had half completed his assemblage of female body parts, he tore his work to pieces, dropping the chunks of flesh into the sea. When he found out that he would not have his promised bride, the monster really went on a tear. He killed Victor's best friend. He waited until Victor got married and then killed his wife on their wedding day. And he didn't kill Victor's father, but all the death made the old man keel over from a broken heart anyway. And here's a quote from the book. "I am malicious because I am miserable. Frankenstein's monster." And so Victor decided to devote his life to hunting down the murderous fiend he had made. Also, we're just going to pause for a second. I am very sorry that I'm stumbling over my words so much because I should be more experienced because we're on day 8 of this shtick, but unfortunately I am not. So please forgive me and don't get mad at me in the comments. Okay. The monster led his creator on a merry chase down to the Mediterranean, then up through Russia, farther and farther north to the everlasting ices of the North Pole. Cold didn't bother the monster, but the farther north they went, the more Victor suffered. When temperature and exhaustion finally killed off Victor Frankenstein, the monster came up to his corpse and wept by the scientist's side. The monster hated Victor, but his entire life had revolved around tormenting his creator. With Victor dead, what was left for the monster to do? Nothing, that's what. So he vowed to set himself on fire deep in the Arctic waste. Dear God, that was a depressing story. I honestly don't know what to do after that. I'd grab Coco, but I don't know where he is right now, and I don't really feel like stretching this out any further looking for him, so, hey, who wants to hear a cheesy Halloween joke? Okay. This is going to make you groan, but listen. Why did the skeleton not go to the party? Because he had no body to go with. Yeah, that was bad, but look, I needed something to lighten the mood after that insanely depressing story, and that's all I came up with, okay? Okay, we're almost done here. Beyond the book. What's on the monster's shelf? Frankenstein's monster learned to read by puzzling through the books he found. These are the ones he read. The Sorrows of Young Werther by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. It's spelled Goethe. in 1774. The blockbuster bestseller of the 18th century, Werther tells the tragic tale of a sensitive young man whose doomed love drags him toward a tragic conclusion. Spoiler, it's death. It was a book closely tied to a tragedy of Mary Shelley's family, because it was the last book her mother read before she died. Having also lost a parent, I can sympathize with Miss Shelley, although I don't know why I'm bringing this up. Paradise Lost by John Milton, 1667. This epic poem details the story of Adam and Eve and the rebellion of Satan. It makes quite an impression on the monster, who sees himself as similar to Adam, united by no link to any other being in existence. It must have made quite an impression on Mary Shelley as well, as she used 3 lines from it as the epigraph to her novel. Did I request thee, Maker, from my clay, to mold me man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me? And finally, Plutarch's Lives, circa 100 AD. The ancient historian Plutarch wrote this famous collection of parallel Greek and Roman biographies. He compares the life of Alexander the Great, Greek, to the life of Julius Caesar, Roman, for example, and the life of Theseus, the ancient Greek king who killed the Minotaur. See page 169. We'll get to that in a couple days. To Romulus, the founder of Rome, who infamously killed his brother. What does the monster look like? When you think of Frankenstein's monster, you probably think of neck bolts, a flat top, and clunky boots. This was the look that actor Boris Karloff sported in the 1931 movie adaptation, and it's become an iconic look. But that lurching creature bears little resemblance to the monster from the book, a gun-toting bookworm capable of moving with the swiftness of lightning. This is how Mary Shelley describes the monster. No mortal could support the horror of that countenance. A mummy again endued with animation could not be so hideous as that wretch. I gazed on him while unfinished. He was ugly then, but when those muscles and joints were rendered capable of motion, it became a thing that, such as even Dante could not have conceived. Dante, of course, wrote the book Dante's Inferno, which I believe details heaven and hell. I don't know, I haven't read it for myself, and I probably never will, because I have a very short attention span, and I am a visual person, which means I quite enjoy picture books. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't have many pictures, although I wouldn't know. I saw by the light of the moon the demon in the casement. The ghastly grin wrinkled his lips. As I looked upon him, his countenance expressed the utmost extent of malice and treachery. Alright, written on a dare. We're almost done. Mary Shelley is one of the youngest writers to ever produce a genuine classic. She was only 18 when she wrote Frankenstein. The story came to her while she was on vacation in Switzerland with her future husband, Percy Shelley, and their friends Lord Byron and Dr. John Polidori. Lord Byron was a famous poet, and I believe Dr. John Polidori wrote the book The Vampire. Hang on, let me check. I need to check if I'm telling the truth or not. Yep, he wrote the book The Vampire, written in 1819. Okay, the group was trapped in a Swiss chateau by bad weather, bored out of their skulls. Byron suggested that they each write a scary story to read to the group. When Mary chose to write about someone who tried to create life and instead created a murderous monster who eventually did him in, she may have been thinking about her own mother, the great feminist writer Mary Wollstonecraft, who was indeed killed by her own creation. She died giving birth to her daughter. 4 years after Frankenstein was published, Percy Shelley drowned in a boating accident, and the poet Leigh Hunt stole the heart from his corpse. Mary Shelley had to beg Hunt for the organ's return, almost the same way Victor Frankenstein had once scavenged for body parts. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I'm sorry about the cheesy joke I made, but listen, we just finished an insanely depressing story, and I needed some way to lighten the mood, and Coco was nowhere nearby. So, with that being said, happy Halloween, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!